Okay, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Thank you. Yeah, so this is weird. I received an email yesterday from my dean saying, "You can't teach in your usual classroom." Thank you, Ulisa. Good morning. You can't teach in your usual classroom. It's closed, and I did not receive any explanation as to why. So please stay tuned for future announcements about our classroom. Currently, I believe it's listed officially as Liberal Arts 201. I'm hoping that I will get more information about it today, but I'm not expecting that. And I do know that we will have an opportunity to meet in person with portions of you, right? As I've scheduled things. I just don't know what classroom it's going to be in. So I'm hoping that this will get resolved quickly. There was nothing that any of us did to cause this. And I haven't heard of any kind of catastrophe on campus, so I don't know exactly why this is happening. But what you can see is my view of my office, so maybe one day when we're all back on campus, you can come in and visit me here. But for now, this is where we are. So what I wanted to do while we're all kind of just getting our bearings at the beginning of class, let's start with some reading. So I would like you to take out The House on Mango Street. This is the hard copy of the book that you should have received in Natasha's class. That's right, you all are in Natasha's class, my Thursday students. Give me a thumbs up if that is true. Thumbs up reaction would work, especially if you don't have your camera on. Awesome. Okay, good. So please take out The House on Mango Street. And what I'd like you to do first is just go ahead and read for about 5 minutes. I think that that'll help us get some of the work done, right? We know that for this week, you are supposed to be reading up to at least page 30. So hopefully you're there by now, or you're about to be there. But even in the event that you haven't started yet, now's the time. Okay, so take out the book. Let's go ahead and get started reading for 5 minutes. I'm going to set the timer, and while you are reading, I'm going to be taking attendance. All right, so go ahead and begin your reading of House on Mango Street now. Okay, when you hear your name, please pop in and say here, hello, present. Somehow let me know that you've heard your name. Okay, Maria.
Here.
Yahira. Yahira. Okay, Yulisa.
Here, mister. Good morning.
Thank you. Good morning. Heidi.
Here.
Great, thank you. Caitlin.
Here.
Great. Brianna emailed me. Okay, Karina.
Here.
Great, good morning. Evelyn.
Here.
Good morning. Anthony.
Here.
Good morning. Lizbeth.
Here.
Great. Rachel.
Here.
Cristal. Crystal? Crystal. Okay. Sarah?
Here.
Great, thank you. Alexis?
Here.
Great, good morning. Angelina? I know you're here. You said hello.
Here.
Yes, thank you. Joshua? Joshua? Okay, no Joshua. Amanda?
Here.
Hi, Amanda.
Hi.
And Fabian?
Here.
Thank you. Okay. Did I miss anyone? Is there anyone that did not hear their name called? Nope. Okay. All right. So my roster is good enough. Got about another 2 minutes for reading, so please continue. Okay. All right. So the second part of our reading exercise for this morning is, well, it's addressing something that's come up in a previous session, and that is word choice, right? Language. I know that some of us here want to improve the words that we use. Well, a really good exercise to help with that is by paying attention to how professional writers use language, use words. One of the things that I love about Sandra Cisneros' writing style is that she's not pedantic. She's not overly intelligent in the sense of how she presents herself. While she herself is very smart, she uses language very simply and in very, very creative ways. So what I would like you to do right now is to look for two things. The first thing I want you to look for is a golden word. All right. So this would be a word that you were reading and it stood out to you for some reason. Maybe the word seemed fancy. Maybe the word seemed really precise and accurate for that moment. Maybe the word triggered some feelings that were really, really strong because of the way it was presented. Okay. Whatever it is, though, it's up to you. I want you to take some time to focus on Sandra Cisneros's word choice. So I want you to look for a golden word. You do not need to know the meaning of the word that you found, okay, just in case she does use something that's maybe a little more highfalutin, okay? But, you know, if you do know the meaning of the word, great. Okay, that's not what this is about. It's more about your personal experience with the language that you see on the page. So I would like you to look for a golden word. The other thing I want you to look for is a golden line. I can type the word line. There we go. And so this is the same thing, but it's at the level of a sentence, right? I really appreciate the simplistic style of Cisneros. And there is a lot of beauty in that simplicity and how direct it can be. So there are definitely some lines that stand out to me and that really, well, to be honest, hit me in very, very strong and surprising ways. So I want you to think of, to also look for a line that you came across in your reading. It doesn't have to have been in the reading in the last 5 minutes. Could have been reading before you came to class. Maybe you've read ahead. Okay, there are no limits on this, just that the golden word and the golden line come from the house on Mango Street. Okay, so I'd like you to take 5 minutes and to look for both your golden word and your golden line. Please include the page number. Okay, page numbers for each. All right, in your own personal notes. Okay, so that way if I ask you, oh, what page, was that passage on with that word? What page was that passage on with the golden line? We could all find it pretty easily. Okay, this might also help us with the next couple of writing assignments, which I'll talk about more after this. So finding good bits of language, okay, and noting where they're at is really important. Does anyone have any questions about what they're doing with the golden word and the golden line?
Do you want us to type it in the chat or write it down? Or
I will probably ask for those who are willing to share to type it into the chat. So you don't need to do it right now. Okay. The focus for you right now is just to kind of search and have your own notes. Okay. If you do want to share the golden word when I ask, then you can do that and you can type it into the chat. But not yet. I want to keep it organized. Okay, Karina.
okay.
Thank you.
Hey, Mister, I have a question.
Yes, go for it, Ulisa.
Are these books like ours, like where we could highlight and stuff like that?
Yes, the Puente program has purchased them for you. And in fact, I'm so glad you asked that. I wanted to show you all kind of an example, right, of how I write in my book. Okay, so sometimes I will write statements. Sometimes I will write. Actually, sometimes I'll even dialogue with characters, right? Sometimes I'll read something frustrating, right, and I'll maybe write a response to it. Sometimes I'll write a question in my in the margins, right, the areas in between. Okay, and other times I'll just circle things or underline things. So I strongly encourage you all. You can see here's another shot of my book. Okay, you can see some underlining and what we call marginalia. Those are my notes or comments or questions that appear in the margins of the book. Okay, make reading a physical experience. Okay, get your pen out and identify and talk to the characters. Okay, I think that it actually helps a lot with remembering things. Because you're engaging in a couple of different ways. One, you are reading and thinking about what you're reading, but two, you're doing the physical act of writing. Okay, so that adds to another level. And then there's another level of cognitive engagement that goes beyond comprehension, right? You're not just trying to understand what's happening, okay, but you're starting to think about it critically, okay? So I really encourage you all to engage interactively, to even, we might say, dialogue with the book, right? You're talking back and forth with it. Okay, the book starts to almost become a person. I know that might sound weird or crazy, but hello, I'm an English professor. That's what I do. Ileana, you noted something in the chat.
I did. Sorry, can you hear me?
I can hear you. A little muffled. Can you turn up the volume?
I don't know if I can.
Okay, it's good enough.
Okay, sorry about that. Just that I personally use post-it notes just because I feel like I write a lot and I don't like to be limited just to the margins of the page. But I just wanted to reinforce that idea to get into the habit of recording your thoughts as you read, not only just for, from a practical standpoint when you're writing.
Yeah.
It's good to come back and look at look at your notes, but also I think it just makes you a stronger reader, a more critical thinker as you're reading the book, right? You can generate your own thoughts and critiques, maybe. You don't always have to agree with whatever's happening in the story, right? So, yeah, just get into the habit of doing that. I know it's really hard at first, but it's very important, I think, if you're going to continue, especially with English.
Yeah, definitely. It certainly helps when you're in an English class for writing papers, right? You start getting into that process of taking notes, and you don't want to be scrambling the night before. You want to limit how much you scramble the night before a paper is due, right? And it helps, support your memory if you can write it down. I also would do post-it notes, but mostly for library books because I would not want to write in the library book. But yeah, that's another good point. Sometimes you got a lot to say, and so you need a big fat post-it note. It's not enough. All right, everyone. So please go ahead and take 5 minutes now and look for your golden word and your golden line. Okay, thank you. And if you have any other questions, type them into the chat or just pop in and ask. Okay, everyone, just under a minute left to gather your notes. Please be ready to share your golden word and or your golden line. Okay. All right, so let's start with the golden word. Is there anyone who is willing to jump in and share the golden word that they found? You can either pop in and unmute yourself, or you can type it into the chat. And if you type it into the chat, please put the page number in there. You guys need to slow down, not all at once, okay? I can't process all of this information here. Let's go, guys. Class time.
I can share mine.
Thank you,
I-
Rachel.
It's on page 14.
Okay.
It's the word crooked, and crooked. Yeah, it's that word stood out to me because at first I hadn't heard it in a while.
Uh-huh.
And to me, the meaning is like it's bent, but the way she uses it here is she says their clothes are crooked and old. So to me, it's like, oh, crooked. Oh, it's wrinkled.
Yeah, right. You would have used wrinkled, but and because she's referring to clothes, you said, right?
Correct.
What a
Yes.
strange word to use for clothes, right?
Right. Yes.
Yeah, because with the word crooked, I think of something that's more rigid, right?
Exactly.
And you know, clothes, fabric, they're more loose, right? And yeah, so I
Mhm.
wonder why wrinkled. What else can crooked mean? This isn't just for you, Rachel. I'm just wondering, you know, if you have a thought on it, go for it.
Yeah, like I was thinking like something like maybe bent. It's like I don't know.
Yeah, well, I'm thinking of like, what if we describe a person as crooked? Have you guys ever heard that before? Maybe like someone like is a crooked cop or a crooked banker. Has anyone heard that expression before?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, okay. What does that mean when we describe someone as crooked? Any thoughts on that? Okay. My understanding of that use is to refer to someone who is morally somehow not doing things right. Okay. Like if we describe, usually like in detective fiction, you talk a lot about sorry, I got distracted by the chat for a second. With detective fiction, you have crooked cops. These are cops that don't play by the rules. They actually do things that are illegal. Okay, so crooked can have this sense of being something that's not right, that's not good. Okay, as well, right? And so here's a good example. I got to go look up the technical definition and see if that's one of them. But I know that's definitely what we call one of the connotations of that word, right? So when we're thinking about words that we choose, we have something called denotation, okay? And that's the textbook definition of it. And Rachel, you brought up such a great example because if we're talking about clothes, you know, we would say, oh, the clothes are wrinkled, right? That makes more sense. Technically, maybe it makes more sense, but more importantly, it makes more sense culturally, right? The connotation of the word wrinkled seems to match better, right, with clothes. But that Sandra Cisneros, who is a master with language. Sorry, I'm fumbling around here with the chat. But Sandra Cisneros, who's a professional writer, when she chooses to use the word crooked instead of wrinkled, it should cause us to raise an eyebrow, like, wait, what? So, to me, when I hear that passage and knowing what I know about our main character, Esperanza, it does make me think that, she thinks there's something wrong here, right? Maybe something wrong with her. Were there other words that we came across? Rachel, thank you for getting it started. That's an excellent example. Other examples of words that stuck out to us? Let's get a couple more before we move on to the golden lines.
I can go.
Okay, yes, I can't see your screen. Please say your name.
Heidi.
Heidi, thank you, Heidi. Go for it.
Yeah, so my word was broom, and it was also on page 14,
Okay.
like right above Rachel's word, where she was describing. It says, "Can't you see they smell like a broom?" So I found it interesting because she was describing them like that they smell like a broom.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and obviously, broom is used as, we know to clean things, right? So that means it's touching things that are dirty, right? And it's got probably a stale smell to it as well. But, it might tell us something a little bit more about our character too. Heidi, what is it? Why does it stand out to you? What does it tell you about Esperanza or her friends? What do you learn about it?
I guess just the way that they describe them,
Mm-hmm.
maybe in a negative way.
Yeah, certainly, right? She's not giving them a compliment, right? This is something that's negative. She's being critical here of them. Let's look at that one more time. It's an interesting passage, interesting comparison she makes. Okay. All right. So you know what, Heidi, this is such a great passage to bring up here because this is another writing style issue that we come across with Sandra Cisneros. Everyone check out page 14, okay? The title of this little chapter is called Our Good Day. And if we start out with, get close to where Heidi pointed us to, let's say, we're talking about Kathy here, I think. $5 is cheap since I don't have any friends except Kathy, who is only my friend till Tuesday. $5, $5. She's trying to get somebody to chip in so they can buy a bicycle from this kid named Tito. They already have $10 and all they need is 5 more. Only $5, she says. Don't talk to them, says Kathy. Can't you see they smell like a broom? Okay, so under normal circumstances, we would see quotes around the language that is being uttered by a character, okay? Don't talk to them should be in quotes. But Sandra Cisneros has left that out here, okay? Luckily, she says Kathy, so we know which character is speaking. But I don't know if any of you have felt this way when reading this book, but sometimes I get a little confused with who is talking, and it takes a little more effort for me to kind of go back. So if you're experiencing that, you're not alone. Your professor gets a little bit confused when he's reading to see who is speaking, okay? If we're in a literature class, that's something that we analyze. Luckily though, for you, maybe luckily for you, we're not in a lit class, so we're not going to give much attention to her lack of quotation marks here. But instead, let's focus on who the speaker is, right? This isn't Esperanza describing the neighbor kids as a broom. This is Kathy, okay? Kathy, who sees herself as a queen. I think Kathy has a lot of cats, if we remember from one of the previous chapters. And Kathy is also someone who is going to be moving out of the neighborhood and has described the neighborhood as going in the wrong direction. And this is right when Esperanza's family has moved in. So Kathy's not a very sensitive person, and we already see her as someone who's very judgmental. And here she is doing it again. Okay, so that's good. This is helpful because it reminds us of who Kathy is, and it reminds us of how Kathy judges the kids in the neighborhood. And what Kathy's action here is that she's leaving. Okay. So I'm going to make a note of that here. Heidi, thank you very much. Okay, now golden lines. What are some lines that you came across that stand out to you?
I have one. It's on page 7,
Okay.
and it's the chapter title is Hairs, and it's the last line of the chapter. The snoring, the rain, and Mama's hair that smells like bread. What from I'm getting from it, it's that she like gets like warmth from like her mom. So I think they're like have a good relationship, or I would say close.
Yes, that's good. All right, I'm going to note that here. So it's from hairs. That's how you're interpreting the hairs that smells like bread. Is that it's a form of closeness to her mom?
Yeah, and like warmth.
Awesome. Yeah, I think that's a fair interpretation of it. Okay. Yeah, let's pay attention to Esperanza's mom and Esperanza's relationship with her mom as we're looking at this story. Okay. You know, Esperanza, we know, is a young girl. I think she's in grade school, but she's certainly at a point of transition from being a girl to becoming a young woman. Okay. I think there are some various clues to that. I mean, one of the chapters that I'm rereading right now is called Hips, right? So she just is physically going through that process, right? And so there are different characters in the neighborhood, men and women, boys and girls, and we get her viewpoints on them. And this is one example of how she views her own mother. And there is this closeness to her. You know, another way that we can interpret this, or at least a process for interpreting stuff, especially when Sandra Cisneros says weird things like the snoring, the rain, and mama's hair that smells like bread. You know, I would never describe my mother's hair in that way, but then again, I'm not a creative writer like her, right? But to help us understand that, you know, we could look at other passages when Esperanza talks about her mother. We can look at other passages where bread it possibly gets brought up, okay, and kind of start to create a little sign map, okay. I'm going to write that phrase here in the chat, okay. Okay, so you know, ideally we'll be in the classroom next week and I'll get to meet with a good portion of you and I can demonstrate kind of what a sign map is or what sign analysis is. But, you know, just think of it as like a brainstorm and free association, okay? When we associate things, that means we're comparing them, right? We're coming up with what are these connections. So if we really wanted to do something detailed in this way to analyze this, we would look at, you know, any mentions of bread, you know, in the story, right? Because that would help us better understand why would Esperanza choose that word, okay, to connect with her mother, okay? Because bread becomes a stand-in for something. Karina, you're the one who brought that up, right? The warmth is how you're reading it, right? And I think that's a fair reading too, okay? Yeah. I agree that that is definitely something she could be going for here. But to kind of shore up, to support that interpretation even more, we go and look for more evidence of it, okay? And you guys, that's what this week is starting to introduce to you, right? How do we write paragraphs here? How do we support what we have to say? So before I make another step, were there any other golden lines that someone would like to share?
I have a line I would like to share.
Yeah, go for it, Angela.
Um,
Thank you.
so it's on page 27.
Okay.
It's when the author describes Marin or Marin.
Yes.
I don't know how to pronounce her name.
You know, I don't either. The way I pronounce it is Marin. So.
Okay, Marin, yes. So the line I chose was, is waiting for a car to stop, a star to fall, someone to change her life.
Oh, yeah.
So this line I think builds like a really strong emphasis on like her life, and even myself, like when I read the sentence, I felt like I had something that I was waiting for in life. But I think it reveals something that it reveals about like Marin is that she seemed passionate about what she was waiting to come to her. Like she was looking for that excitement to spark in her life.
Mm-hmm. So she's passionate. There's some sense of anticipation with her, right? She is expecting something to come to her. Okay, and maybe, do you think she has excitement right now in her life from that little vignette, that little chapter?
It doesn't really seem like it. The way she describes her when she lights a cigarette, and it says how it doesn't matter if it's cold or if the radio doesn't work. It seems like all she cares about is like how the boys like perceive her.
Yeah. I think that's a very important observation, especially for this character, right? Because that's something that she teaches Esperanza, right? She teaches her how to look at the boys, and how to act like you're not looking at them too, right? She's kind of teaching them some codes for social interaction, right? So yeah, how to. Yeah, she is definitely focused on how boys see her. Okay, thank you so much for sharing that. Right? Yeah, here's another female character that is important, right? You know, one of the nice things about Sandra Cisneros' writing style is that she writes with these short little chapters, like 2 pages, 3 pages. You can read them in 5 minutes or less. You know, you can actually get through one. That's intentional. I've read other things by Sandra Cisneros that helps me to make that claim. She actually said so in her recent memoir. She wanted to write for people who work for a living, people who don't have the luxury of coming home and opening up some novel by Charles Dickens that's like 800 pages long, right? And they can just sit there for hours and make some kind of headway into it. So, you know, it is interesting how writers choose to write, but understand that there's intention behind that. And so when we are reading, it's important that we take seriously the way that a writer like Sandra Cisneros chooses to present certain things. So it's no accident that the chapter ends with that very sentence. And it's maybe, yeah, I'll leave it at that. You know, Angelina, thank you for sharing that one. I thought you brought up some great observations about it. Okay, so we've got some examples of words and lines that are meaningful. Thank you to those who've shared and who have helped us with the page numbers. So that way, if any of you found those lines important, you could kind of return to them at a later time. This is probably a good time for us to transition so I can show you the, let's see here. Actually, I'm not ready to share just yet. Got to get my computer set up. I want to show you the paper prompt. So while I'm getting my screen set up, what I would recommend that you do is to log into Canvas. I'm sure some of you are already there. And I want you to look at the week 2 module, because that is where the paper prompt is for, that's where the prompt is for our next assignment. Doing a really bad job here of balancing talking and playing with my computer. Okay, there we go. All right, so what I'm sharing with you, first of all, are you able to see what I've got on my screen? Please give me a thumbs up reaction. Awesome, thank you. Okay, what I'm going to do right now is just kind of a quick walkthrough again. This is the new homepage for this week. It gives you a plan for what we're looking at. It reminds you of what the reading is that you need to do. It tells you what our goals are. And oftentimes, I will also give you a critical question to think about. Okay, so the question for this week is, what does Esperanza want? Okay. Before I move on to the next one, I want you to know when I'm presenting these questions to you, they're not formal in the sense like you need to respond to them, and send me an email with your thoughts. What they are meant to do is to help you focus as you are reading, and to help you prepare for your upcoming writing assignments. So Esperanza is the protagonist for the house on Mango Street. This means that the whole story centers on what it is that she wants and the action that she takes to attempt to fulfill that. The conflict, the way that this story draws out is because if a character gets what they want, then the story's over, right? So what we want to see is, how is that want suspended? What are the things that get in the way of her achieving what she wants? And there's all kinds of ways that writers can play with this, okay? So to keep it simple, we first have to get a sense for, well, who is our character? What does this character want? This can be something material, okay? But it also could be something that the character isn't even fully aware of that they want, but you can see that they want something based on how they act or based on how they talk. So I encourage you to take notes of what you think Esperanza wants. Start to make that claim, right? What is it that she wants? And start looking for evidence of that. I apologize for the sound from my email here. I'm just gonna close that out. All right, the second question is, what people in her neighborhood stand out to you? Angelina, I believe you just shared with us Marin, right? One of your classmates earlier shared with us Kathy, right? So these are examples of neighbors, of people in the neighborhood who've stood out to a couple of you, but there are many others, right? So you don't need to be attentive to all of them, but I think you should choose at least one that you really want to track, because that person will be the subject of your very first writing assignment. And we'll take a look at that. You noticed I clicked on the hyperlink. It should redirect us to the week 2 module. And here we are. All right, so you can see in the week 2 module, the page that I am drawing your attention to is called Mini Essay 1 Prompt, House on Mango Street Character Analysis. Okay, so what I'd like you to do right now is to review this prompt and ask me some questions, okay? Another thing that we've talked about with writing is just knowing what to write, okay, and what to do. Well, that starts with how critically you read the prompt. So go ahead, take a few minutes right now. Let's make sure we are all on the same page. I mean that both literally and figuratively. If there's anything that I say in this prompt that is confusing, that would help if I explained a little bit more, please let me know. All right, so go ahead and review the prompt for Mini Essay 1 now. Take a few minutes and then we'll return for questions. Okay, everyone. I'm going to go back to the share screen. And let me see if I can minimize the windows here. Okay. All right. So questions about the mini essay prompt.
I have a question on, you said provide support using to support sandwiches.
Yes. Yeah.
Did that correctly?
Yeah, that is correct, right? So you won't be serving me lunch anytime soon. This is obviously figurative, right? The support sandwich is a form of presenting quotes where you start with context, right? That is basically background information. Where is the quote going to come from? Okay. If we're talking about the story, The House on Mango Street, then you're letting me know things like what character is speaking to what other character and why, right? You're kind of like jogging my memory. And then the quote is presented, and then the quote is analyzed. You interpret why this quote is meaningful, okay? So it's just a formal way of presenting evidence, and it is meant to be based on the claim that you've made. So this is a really important structure for everyone to learn, and it is what this week is about. So I'm going to go back to the module, and I will show you where you can learn about the support sandwich, and more importantly, the claim, right? Because your support sandwich is useless without a claim. You don't know what quotes to choose unless you have a claim. All right, so we're in the week 2 module. Sorry for bouncing around there. The lecture that you need to look at, obviously all of this material is stuff that you need to review. Most importantly though, making a point in a paragraph. So select that page. You'll see this lecture material here. The claim and support sandwich are explained in this PowerPoint video presentation. There is audio to it, okay? So please make sure to review that. It is the foundation to all of the body paragraph writing that we will do in this class, okay? It is something that I teach all of my students, whether they are composition students like yourselves, or whether they're in my literature classes, in which Ileana has experienced, okay? I like to keep things very structured, and having it this way helps, okay? So thank you, Lisa, for asking. The support sandwich is just a way of describing how information, how support is presented to you. And you can learn more about it by watching this little video called Making a Point in a Paragraph, okay? Does that answer your question?
Yes, yes, it does. Thank you.
Excellent. Other questions about the assignment?
The assignment is due next Friday, correct?
That is correct. We are in week 2 right now, and it says on the prompt that it is due Friday of week 3. So not tomorrow, okay? You've got more than a week at this point to do it. And this was, made available to you on Monday. So you had a little, just under 2 weeks from the time the prompt was sent out. Great. Other questions? Okay, a couple of things I want to emphasize here. You cannot write about Esperanza for this first assignment, okay? You will write about her for the full essay, the big one that's due, that the rough draft is due for in week 5 and the final draft is due in week 6, okay? And I note that right here, okay? And you can't reuse the same quotes, but if you are writing about another character, then you don't really have to worry about it, okay? Because the main paper is about Esperanza, but this little paper, okay, it's not even really a paper. It is a body paragraph, okay? That's the other point I want to mention, okay? Do not write about Esperanza, write about one of the other characters, okay? Marin, Kathy, okay? Nenny, her little sister. Any of these characters are available to you. Make sure that you are writing one paragraph. Now, 300 words long. Okay, that's more of an estimate. I'm not going to do a word count, but I know what 300 words looks like. It is a full page, all right, from top to bottom. So in your case, you'll have your MLA header on the top left. We'll go over that more next week. And right below that, you will start your one paragraph. You will begin with a topic sentence that is a claim, tries to prove something. And then you will follow it with your support sandwiches. Okay, and that is the basic structure that I want to see you practicing here. Some students, when they've written this before, they feel like they need to write an introduction or a conclusion. Don't do that. This is not that kind of assignment. We will write a full paper later. This is just to see how you write one body paragraph, how you are practicing what I've asked you to review in lecture. Okay, so please review the lecture material for this week because this mini essay is a test of that. Okay, that'll be due next week. Other questions about this mini essay assignment?
You says it's MLA style and formatting requirements. What exactly are the formatting requirements that you want on this one paragraph?
Sure. So we will talk more about that next week, and I will have some examples for you. Let's see if I have something for you right now that I can show you. I know that I have posted a module called supplement, and I usually put it after the week that we're in right now. Good, so I moved it down. It's right below week 2. And let's see what is available to you. Right now, the only thing that I've posted to the supplement module is a hyperlink to a free copy of The House on Mango Street. This is just in case you wanted to get started reading earlier last week. You know, the other thing too is if you lose your book, okay, you can keep up with your reading by clicking on this link here. It'll take you to a free copy of The House on Mango Street. I have some things that I have not published yet, and I'm going to make sure to publish right now. So I don't want to overwhelm you all with information. We can worry about MLA formatting more next week, but since the question has been brought up, I will make sure to publish this right now. That is the MLA Guide, 8th edition. So if you select that, this is going to be your super important resource for MLA formatting for the whole semester, okay? Like I said, I'm not going to go into a lot of detail about this right now because there's a lot of information here. And the most important thing that I want you all to focus on at this moment is the claim and the support, okay? Making a point in a paragraph, okay? What I want to, I guess, put you at ease with is that MLA formatting is very simple for this first paper. We're going to do MLA formatting in baby steps. Don't worry about footnotes or about a works cited page. Those things you are not going to be expected of in this mini essay. And if we go back to the prompt, I believe, the prompt does not say that you need a works cited page, okay? So really the only thing that you need to know for MLA formatting is the MLA header and what is called the running header. I'm going to put that into the chat right now. Okay. So MLA format. Okay, there's a few things here. So for mini essay 1. All right, and this will be reviewed, or this will be introduced more fully next week. Okay. That will include, thank you, Ileana, quotes and citations. So let's start with the header. Okay. Does anyone know what the header is in MLA style? Please raise your hand or pop in if you know what that is. No? Okay, well, good. Next week's lecture then will be instructive for you. What about, and I'm guessing if you don't know what the header is, then you probably don't know what the running header is. Okay, and you'll also need to know quotes, how to cite quotes. and this would be what we call in-text citation. Okay. MLA formatting is not difficult in the sense of it's not conceptually hard to understand. It just takes practice, and it's really a sign of organization. Okay. So it's very important that you do those things. I will make sure that the resources to help you learn those things are available to you. That is getting a little bit ahead of us right now, okay? So as I pointed out in the plan for this week, you've got to do the reading, okay? And you need to know how to make a point in a paragraph. That's where I want your intellectual energy for this week. Next week, you've got more than enough time to think about formatting. In case you want to get ahead and you want to learn what's a header, what's a running header, citing quotes, you can go to that MLA guide that is in the supplemental module, okay? All right, other questions about the mini essay assignment? No? Okay, so let's see. I've drawn your attention to the most important part of lecture this week, making a point in a paragraph. We have started to track lines that are outstanding to us. And that's actually a good way to prepare for this week's discussion board. Remember, the discussion board is something that I always put at the bottom of the module. And just to keep you guys on schedule, or to like develop a sense of consistency, you know, your discussion board post, the first one is due today by midnight, okay? These posts, they are not graded, but I do review them, okay? Sorry, I got a little bit behind in the second week. I thought I had COVID earlier in the week. Turned out I did not, but I had a sickness that I was dealing with. So that put me a little bit behind schedule here, but you will get your review of the week 1 posts back today. You'll get full credit for the post, for all 3 posts, as long as you posted all 3 of them, okay? And you met the word counts for it, okay? If you only posted 1, then it'll be incomplete. And if you didn't post at all, then that counts as an absence, okay? It's really important that we continue to post each week to the discussion board. It's a way for you to demonstrate participation, especially if you didn't talk in class today. It's a way for me to be able to see what you're thinking, okay? And for you to practice and test some ideas and engage with your classmates. So post to the discussion board. It keeps you enrolled in the class. It's a way for you to practice your skills. And the good thing is it's not going to impact whether you get an A, B, C, D. Well, it could be impacting you with the others, but it's not really going to take away points, okay? It will affect your enrollment in the class though, okay? And I will make sure to email you if you're not posting to the discussion boards and it does seem like I need to drop you from the class. So please post. The first one is due today. Any questions about the discussion boards before I move on to the rest of the module? Okay, nothing at the moment. The last thing that I want to point out about this module is a little lecture about interpreting signs. It's called How Should We Read the Novel? This is the English professor, the literary side of me that kind of came out. I guess what I want to take a moment here and say, you can read this lecture very closely if you want to, but I'm not really going to require it. Okay, I put it up there as an option. Okay, the most important thing to take from this is we look at signs, we look at words, and we interpret them based on their context, based on how they appear. This is all very abstract, and I can better explain this to you all with some examples in the classroom, okay? So at this point, you know, this lecture is most useful, this one here on how do we read. This is most useful when you're thinking about how to analyze the quotes that you get, okay? So for right now, let's keep it simple. Let's not overthink things, okay? I just want you to pick out quotes and tell me why they are meaningful, all right? You know, they're all gonna help you support whatever your claim is. Okay. So, if we were to make a claim like Kathy is judgmental, okay, we'd have to prove that. Well, we would need evidence for that. You would have to go and find quotes, okay, where that would demonstrate how Kathy is being judgmental. Who is she judging? What is she judging them for? And that's what you're. Hi, everyone. I got booted from my own Zoom lecture while on campus using campus Wi-Fi. That's not a good sign. All right. Maybe it was a divine sign telling me to cut it short. The point here is for this week, focus on making a claim and then focus on backing it up. Okay. You don't know what quotes you need until you've made a claim. So as you are reading, start thinking, what can you claim about these characters? And if you don't know what a claim is yet, because you haven't reviewed the lecture, go review the lecture, okay? And if you're still not sure, then email me and we can set up a meeting and we can talk, all right? So make your claims, start gathering support. That's what the mini essay for next week is all about, okay? All right, any other questions before we close out for today? Nothing right now. Okay, so more examples next week about making a point in a paragraph. We'll have some examples for what are good claims and how to make them better. And we'll talk about MLA formatting too. All right. So everyone, thank you for checking in. I'm looking forward to seeing more participation in the future. Thank you to those who popped in and shared their thoughts. And I look forward to reading your discussion boards and seeing what your thoughts were on writing being a pain and what your thoughts will be this week on things that stood out to you as strange in the story. Okay, thank you all for your time. I'll catch you later. Ileana, we'll hang out and we'll chat for a second. Okay. All right, everyone. Have a good day. That's the end.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Hi, Professor.
Thank you. Take care.